right now, inside every single cell of your body, there is a biological clock.
Yeah, ticking away.
Exactly. And for basically the entire history of modern medicine, the smartest minds on Earth just assumed this clock only had one gear, which was forward. It ticks when you're born, it ticks as you grow, and it just keeps ticking as you age.
Right. A one-way street.
But today, we are doing a deep dive into the scientists who finally found the reverse gear. We are talking about the wild science of cellular reprogramming.
It's just so fascinating because it fundamentally rewrites our understanding of what aging actually is. I
Yeah.
mean, we are moving way past these theoretical ideas and looking at actual biological mechanisms proven in the lab that allow us to grab the hands of that clock and actively wind them backward.
Which sounds completely like science fiction. But our goal today is to map out how researchers discovered the specific switches that reset a cell's age. But, the story doesn't just stop there, because that initial discovery came with a massive, terrifying flaw that almost ended the research entirely.
Oh, it was a huge problem, almost a deal breaker for the whole field.
Right. So we're going to explore how scientists engineered a way around that fatal flaw and why that breakthrough has triggered an absolute gold rush in Silicon Valley. You've got tech billionaires using artificial intelligence to try and turn this into a reality for us humans.
And the implications for medicine are, frankly, difficult to overstate. Traditionally, when we treat the diseases of aging, we're really just playing defense.
Managing the decline.
Exactly.
Well-
We fight the downstream symptoms, we try to clear out harmful plaques in a deteriorating brain, or we prescribe drugs to manage failing metabolic systems. But cellular reprogramming bypasses those symptoms entirely. It reaches deep into the cell's master control system and turns the actual dial of age itself back down.
To really understand how wild this is, we need to look at the golden rule of biology that this discovery totally shattered. For decades, the foundational law of cellular development was that it operated as a strict one-way street.
Right, because every single cell in your body carries your complete genetic blueprint, the exact same DNA. So a skin cell in your arm, a neuron in your brain, and a muscle cell in your heart, they all contain identical genetic code. What differentiates them is simply which specific genes are switched on and which are switched off. A skin cell is just running the skin program, while a neuron is running the neuron program.
And once a cell specializes, like once a blank slate stem cell commits to being a skin cell, the dogma was that this was a permanent state.
Yes,
You
exactly.
start as a single, all-powerful stem cell, you divide, you specialize, and you stay that way until you die.
That was the absolute bedrock assumption. There is no going back. But in 2006, a Japanese researcher named Shinya Yamanaka asked a seemingly heretical question. He asked, what if going backward is just a matter of flipping the right biological switches?
Which is such a brilliant leap.
It really is. He hypothesized that there might be master switches that could instruct a highly specialized adult cell to just forget its identity and revert back to a youthful, undefined state.
Instead of accepting the one-way street, he basically just went looking for the reset button. And he and his team started with a list of 24 candidate genes that they suspected might be involved in early embryonic development.
And through this incredibly painstaking process of elimination, they narrowed that list of 24 down to just 4 specific genes. Today, those 4 genes are famous in biology. They're called the Yamanaka factors.
Right, the Yamanaka factors.
Yeah, OCT4, KLF4, and c-Myc.
We should probably clarify what a factor actually is in this context, because they aren't just abstract concepts, right?
No, not at all. These 4 are what we call transcription factors. You can think of them as physical master keys. They're actually proteins that physically navigate into the nucleus of the cell, bind directly to the DNA helix, and turn massive cascades of other genetic switches on or off. They're the architects of the cell's identity.
Okay, so Yamanaka isolates these 4 master keys, and he takes ordinary, fully specialized adult skin cells from mouse cells, completely locked into their identity, and forces these 4 transcription factors to switch on.
And the skin cells entirely transformed. They wound all the way back to a stem cell state.
Wow.
Yeah, they became biologically young, regaining the capacity to become absolutely any cell type in the body. The one-way street suddenly had a reverse gear. And just a year later, in 2007, Yamanaka replicated this feat in human cells.
Which is huge.
Right, and it ended up earning him the Nobel Prize in 2012, alongside John Gurdon.
As incredible as that is, I'm struggling with the practical application for a living person here.
How so?
Well, reverting a cell to a blank slate stem cell in a petri dish is one thing. Like, if I'm a specialized adult, maybe an accountant, and you put me back into kindergarten, sure, I have the potential to be anything again, but I need my liver cells to keep doing the job of a liver, and my heart cells to keep beating. If you turn my body into a puddle of undefined stem cells, that really doesn't help me live longer.
No, it definitely doesn't. And that is the crucial hurdle. Reprogramming a cell all the way back to zero erases the very structure of the organism. So, to understand how scientists solve this, we have to look really closely at the mechanism of aging itself, specifically the difference between your genome and your epigenome.
Okay, so the genome is the actual hardware, right? The sequence of DNA letters.
Yes, the DNA is your hardware, but the epigenome is the software. It's a physical layer of chemical tags that sits on top of your DNA and dictates how that hardware is used.
Got it.
Think of your DNA as a grand piano. It contains every single key, every possible note that could ever be played by your biology. But, a piano doesn't play itself.
So the epigenome is like the sheet music.
Exactly that. It is the specific pattern of chemical instructions telling the cell which keys to strike and which to leave alone, so that it plays the skin song instead of the neuron song.
Okay, so where does the aging process actually fit into the piano and the sheet music analogy?
Well, this connects to David Sinclair's work at Harvard, specifically what he calls the information theory of aging. His research suggests that as we age, our DNA hardware stays remarkably intact. The piano keys are all still there and completely functional.
The problem is the sheet music.
Yes, exactly. Over decades of exposure to radiation, stress, cell division, environmental toxins, the epigenome picks up noise.
Meaning those chemical tags start landing in the wrong places? It's almost like chemical rust piling up on the piano strings.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
As that rust accumulates, the crisp, pristine pattern that kept the cell running its specific program gets corrupted. The cell starts striking the wrong keys.
Right.
So an old liver cell still possesses perfectly good liver DNA, but it has lost the clean instructions for how to function as a liver cell. In this paradigm, aging isn't necessarily the hardware wearing out. Aging is corrupted software.
Okay, but if aging is just corrupted software, that means a clean, original version of your cellular code still exists inside you right now. Like it hasn't been lost, it's just buried under the rust.
Precisely. The underlying genetic code is still pristine. And that brings us back to what the Yamanaka factors are actually doing.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. When you flood a cell with those 4 transcription factors, they don't alter the underlying DNA. They don't change the piano. They actively wipe away the epigenetic noise. They clear the rust off the strings and rewrite the chemical tags back to the pristine, youthful pattern the cell had when it was first formed.
Wow, so it's essentially a factory reset for your biological software.
Exactly.
But earlier I mentioned a fatal flaw. Here's where it gets really interesting, because we have this master reset command, but if we actually try to use it in a living animal, things go spectacularly wrong.
They really do, because the 4 factors OSKM are overwhelmingly powerful. If you turn all 4 of them on fully and just leave them running, the cell doesn't stop at younger.
It keeps going.
Yes, it rewinds all the way back to a blank slate, entirely forgetting it was ever a specialized cell.
Yeah.
And in a living animal, losing cellular identity is just an absolute catastrophe.
And it gets worse than just cells forgetting their jobs, right? Because that 4th factor, CI, carries a very dark reputation in biology.
It does. CI is a highly active cancer gene. It drives really aggressive cellular growth.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so when scientists tried fully reprogramming cells inside living mice, the cells aggressively multiplied and formed chaotic tumors known as teratomas.
Teratomas are just fascinating and horrifying at the same time because these reprogrammed cells have the potential to build literally anything. So you get these disorganized masses spontaneously growing fragments of bone or patches of hair or fully formed teeth deep inside tissues where they absolutely do not belong.
It's nightmare fuel, honestly. And for a long time, the field of longevity research was totally paralyzed by this contradiction. The Yamanaka factors could completely cure aging in a cell, but doing so guaranteed a lethal, chaotic tumor in the animal. It was a miracle and a poison delivered in the exact same biological mechanism.
Right, and solving that paradox was the only way this moves from a neat laboratory trick to actual human medicine. Like, how do you extract the youth without triggering the tumor?
Well, the breakthrough arrived in 2020. It was published in the journal Nature by David Sinclair's lab. And they approached this as a problem of dose and timing. They asked a beautifully simple question: what if we apply the factors, but we stop the reprogramming process, before the cell hits zero.
Just a partial rewind.
Exactly. This is known as partial reprogramming or transient reprogramming.
Huh.
First, they looked at the four factors OSKM and eliminated the most dangerous variable. They dropped c-MYC entirely.
Okay, so they removed the known cancer driver. But I have to assume removing one of the master keys changes how effective the reset is.
It definitely does, which is why timing became the critical variable. They used only three factors OSK and delivered them into the cells connected to a specialized drug switch.
Oh,
Right. This allowed the researchers to turn the reprogramming process on and, crucially, turn it off. So they flipped the switch just long enough to wipe away the accumulated epigenetic rust, but they cut the power right before the cell reached the point of forgetting its identity. They reset the biological age, but preserved the cellular job.
and they tested this approach on the optic nerves of old mice, specifically using a mouse model of glaucoma. I'm assuming they chose the optic nerve because the central nervous system is notoriously terrible at regenerating. Like, if you can fix an old optic nerve, you've really proven your point.
Absolutely. The optic nerve is an incredibly high bar for regeneration. These were mice losing their vision due to the complex degenerative effects of aging and pressure inside the eye.
Okay.
And when the researchers applied this transient three-factor reprogramming, the age-damaged optic nerves regrew.
That's crazy.
The nerve cells began functioning again as if they were fundamentally young. The animal's vision was literally restored.
That is just a staggering result. I mean, if a patient today has a failing aged optic nerve, the best case scenario with current medicine is a drug that maybe slows down the rate of blindness. We don't have drugs that functionally reverse age in living tissue. The fact that the tissue stayed an optic nerve, didn't turn into a tumor, and actually became young again is a total paradigm shift.
It really is. That 2020 paper was the proof of concept the scientific community needed. It demonstrated that the lethal contradiction had a solution. Precise application of partial reprogramming could safely rewind the biological clock in a living creature.
And once you prove you can safely reverse aging in a living animal, that theoretical leap isn't lost on Silicon Valley. If you can do this for an optic nerve, the obvious question is whether you can do it for a heart, a kidney, or an entire human body.
Oh, absolutely.
And overnight, the conversation shifted from pure biology to an engineering problem, which triggered this massive financial arms race.
The scale of the capital entering this space right now is unprecedented for biotechnology. In early 2022, a company named Altos Labs launched with $3 billion in initial funding.
Wait, we really need to pause on that number. $3 billion for a startup that hasn't cured a single human patient yet is not normal venture capital. That is like nation-state level funding.
It's wild. But it reflects the sheer magnitude of the potential payoff. And they backed that funding up by assembling an absolute dream team of scientists. Shinya Yamanaka himself came on board as a senior advisor. They recruited Steve Horvath, the pioneer who invented the epigenetic clocks used to measure biological age.
Yeah.
Altos Labs' sole mission is to translate partial reprogramming into viable human medicine.
And they have serious competition, too. You've got NewLimit, co-founded by Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. Retro Biosciences secured $180 million, backed heavily by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI.
Yeah, a lot of big names.
Right, you have all these massive tech billionaires jumping into a deeply complex biological field. I mean, it's easy to look at that and wonder if there is a bit of tech hubris here, this idea that software engineers think they can just code their way out of biological aging.
Yeah, and it's a valid skepticism, for sure. But the reason tech leaders are so deeply invested is because the remaining hurdle in cellular reprogramming is fundamentally a massive search problem. It's an information problem.
Walk us through what that search problem actually looks like in the lab.
Well, think about the variables we just discussed. We know the three factors, OSK, worked for the optic nerve. But does that exact same combination work for a liver cell or a heart muscle cell?
Right.
What is the exact dosage required? Do you leave the switch on for 48 hours or 72 hours? How does the timing change based on the density of the tissue or the age of the patient?
And if you change one variable, it probably alters all the others. The space of possibilities isn't just large, it's astronomically complex.
Precisely. If human scientists had to physically test every single combination of factors, dosages, delivery methods, and cell types at a laboratory bench, it would take centuries. Not to mention billions of dollars in wasted physical materials. It is simply too slow.
But this is where the tech synergy becomes essential.
Exactly, because this multi-dimensional puzzle is exactly what machine learning is built to solve.
So how is AI actually interfacing with the biology here? I mean, it's not just guessing, right? It has to be looking at specific data.
The AI is analyzing vast, complex data sets, primarily focusing on something called DNA methylation.
Methylation is the chemical rust we were talking about earlier.
Yes, methyl groups are the physical chemical tags that attach to the DNA and make up the epigenome. There are tens of millions of these methylation sites across the human genome. And machine learning models can analyze billions of data points showing exactly where these tags are located in a young cell versus an old cell. They map the complex, three-dimensional structures of the transcription factor proteins. By processing all this data in latent space, the AI can virtually simulate and predict which specific combination of factors will successfully clear the rust from a specific cell type without pushing it so far that it forgets its identity.
That's incredible. The AI does the heavy lifting of narrowing millions of theoretical possibilities down to the few dozen that are actually worth testing in physical reality.
Precisely. And the feedback loop is closed by the AI aging clocks, like the one Steve Horvath developed. You take the AI's proposed reprogramming recipe, apply it to a physical cell in the lab, and then use an AI clock to measure the resulting DNA methylation pattern.
So the AI clock instantly scores the result. It looks at the methylation tags and says, congratulations, the cell is biologically 10 years younger, or it says, you failed, try again. It's just a high-speed, continuous loop of debugging the software of life.
And that continuous feedback loop is the engine driving the entire multi-billion-dollar longevity industry right now. They are utilizing vast computing power to search for the perfect biological code to safely update the human body.
So when we zoom out and look at all of the Yamanaka factors, the epigenome, the AI feedback loops, the major takeaway here is a total reframing of how we view our own biology. For all of human history, aging was accepted as an inevitable wear and tear process. You just endure the rust. But cellular reprogramming proves that the underlying hardware is actually fine.
Yes.
The rust is just an epigenetic illusion. Aging is lost information in the cellular software, and that software can potentially be rebooted.
It is arguably the most profound shift in biological understanding in half a century. However, we do have to provide a very grounded reality talk here.
Good point.
The incredibly clean, miraculous results we've discussed today are predominantly happening in mice or in isolated human cells in a petri dish.
We are a long way off from a doctor giving you a full-body software update.
Very far. Translating partial reprogramming from a mouse optic nerve into a safe, systemic treatment for a complex human being is an unsolved engineering problem of the highest order. If you get the dosage wrong in one organ, or the timing is slightly off in a specific tissue layer, you risk triggering those teratomas.
Right.
The biological safety margins have to be absolute.
Which means anyone online right now trying to sell you a supplement, a cream, or a wellness therapy claiming to, reprogram your cells using Yamanaka factors is just selling you snake oil.
Totally. There is no consumer product yet.
Yeah.
The first human clinical trials for highly specific, localized applications like certain eye conditions are just beginning to appear on the horizon. But the timeline for the scientific community has fundamentally shifted. The question is no longer, is biological reversal possible? The question is strictly, how do we engineer it safely and how soon?
And that distinction, moving from a question of possibility to a question of engineering, is massive. And it leaves us with a deeply provocative thought to close on. Let's assume the engineers do solve the safety margins. Let's assume the AI finds the perfect multidimensional recipe, and in 20 or 30 years, we can routinely debug and update our biological software. How does the removal of a biological expiration date fundamentally alter the human psyche?
Oh, it changes the very foundation of how we value time.
Right. If you know that biological clock ticking away in your cells can be wound backward whenever the epigenome gets too noisy, does your ambition change? Does your timeline for marriage or choosing a career completely shift? If you suddenly have centuries of healthy biological software ahead of you, does your tolerance for everyday risk completely vanish? We spend our entire lives motivated by the scarcity of time. What happens to human nature when the ticking stops? Something for you to ponder until next time.